Welcome to another very special Interview Wednesday. I am your officiant, Kent, and joining me is a very special guest, the Unbreakable Lexi Gomez. Lexi, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
So you've only been on the scene for a little over a year, and you are probably one of the hottest rising stars in the Florida scene. What has that experience been like? How has that felt?
It's felt like I'm very grateful and very humble for the experience that I've been blessed to have. Like you said, I've only been on for like over a year, and I've gotten the opportunities to wrestle for a lot of new companies that I've been really wanting to be a part of and returning to. And just the thought process of that is I would never have imagined myself where I am right now. And of course, there's always more opportunities ahead of me that I don't even know what to expect anymore, but it's just so much fun. I'm having a great time meeting so many great people, and I couldn't be more thankful.
Well, take me back to the very, very beginning. When did Lexi discover wrestling? When did wrestling become a part of your life?
Like every wrestler gives you the answer. I started watching it. I was young. I remember I used to watch like the old like Attitude Era, like WWE. My favorites were Lita and The Rock and The Undertaker, Stone Cold. You know, all the classics. And I just remember watching it, and The Rock was always my favorite. So I would always try to impersonate him, and my mom would just think it was funny. And I just remember watching it on TV when I was younger. I used to watch it with my mom and my grandparents for a little bit, and then I kind of strained away from it for a long time, and I got back into it when I was about like 16, 17, and when I realized there was like a chance for me to go to like a wrestling school and actually be a professional wrestler, I was like jumped right on it. I was 17 turning 18 when I first started like getting into finding a school, and I've never looked back since then. I've been training for almost 2 years now. And it's just, to imagine, like, when I was little, I would never expect myself to be a professional wrestler, you know? Like, it's crazy. Like, I'm doing shows and performing in front of people just like I watched my favorite wrestlers do, and I just sometimes can't wrap my mind around it, but it's crazy, and that's kind of how I am here now.
Was there a particular moment or match or segment, promo that really, like, hooked you? You said The Rock was your favorite. Was there a particular Rock promo or match that really called to you and like hooked you in?
I mean, as a little girl, I never really I didn't think that I could be able to do what they're doing. So there was a lot of moments where I like would watch like Lita and see her wrestling, and I was like, wow, women can do this. And I remember that's some of the moments I used to have was like when she used to like go, like her and Trish, when they used to wrestle, and they used to be like superplexes and moonsaults, and I was like, whoa, we can do this? Like, I just remember being little and looking at my TV screen, and I was like, wow, these girls are doing something crazy, like they're wrestling. And that moment, I was like, this is really a different thing than it's not just like a cartoon or a TV show. Like, they're literally performing and doing like stunts, and they're flipping, and they're getting into characters, and they're telling a story. And that's kind of like a moment I was maybe like 6 or 7 years old, and I kind of grasped the knowledge of pro wrestling. It's like a story, and that's kind of what I kind of fell in love with, was being able to tell a story through the ring and through the ropes.
So when did you actually get into wrestling training? Like, did you see an ad somewhere? Did someone do it? Like, how did you get into the process?
Well, I lived in Orlando, and I like Googled up what kind of schools and stuff were good. I came across Team Vision Dojo, and I knew one of my friend's father was like in contact with like the trainers and stuff there because he's a chiropractor. So he was like, yeah, this is a really good school to go to. We did research on everything, and I was like, okay, this is completely different because I've never done anything like this, like an athletic sport or anything. I did like gymnastics and stuff when I was young, but I've never done anything like this intense before. And I was like, can I really do this? And I was 17, and I asked my mom, I was like, can you take me to the school? Can I start wrestling? And she was like, yeah, I'll support you with whatever. So we went to the school, and I remember taking like my first 3/4 rolls and my first like somersault moves and my back rolls and stuff. And I was like, that's basically what we did for the first my first day of training, I remember it. We did our rolls, we stretched, and then I learned how to lock up, and I learned how to put someone in a headlock. And from there on, I was like, yep, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to stick with this school. I'm going to do this. And now I'm here.
So what was the training process like for you? I mean, I've talked to people who were athletes, football players, and they said that the training was so much more intense and, exhausting for wrestling than it was for any other sport.
Yeah.
What was that like having no sports background other than gymnastics? What was it like for you?
It was a lot of work. I'm still training, still learning. It's still something that, it's still exhausting to do these things because people look at wrestling and of course, the first thing to say, oh, it's fake. No, you literally go one day to a training school and ask for like a drill. Okay, and then that drill is gonna blow you up, and then you're gonna be like, "Whoa, these athletes are crazy." And it, like, the first time I ever did like my first like wrestling drill was like running the ropes, like 5x5. You do this 5 times, you did this up and overs, and I was like, wow. Only thing I thought you did was like get in the ring and you wrestled like one-on-one. I didn't know you had to know how to do this to get over the ropes, to hit them the right way so it's safe. None of this knowledge was in my head. Like, in saying I had no athletic background, it really wasn't like tiring on my body because I always like to stay like fit and healthy. So I always try to be active, but this is like way different. And now I'm kind of adapted to it because I train for it, but it's way different than anything I would have expected, like completely different.
Well, and it's so important to know how to do these things correctly, but even in wrestling, there's no guarantee you're going to be able to. Like, taking a bump, it can hurt, even doing it right.
Right, I remember taking my first bumps, like, I didn't know what a bump was. They're like, have you ever taken bumps before? I'm like, no, what's a bump? And so we went through the whole process. I remember, like, Aaron Epic was teaching me how to, like, cross my arms. He's like, tuck your chin. I'm like, okay. And he's like, and just throw yourself back. And I'm like, this is a thing that we're supposed to do? And he's like, yeah, you need to sell. You need to take a clean bump. So I just remember I spent, like, the rest of, like, the hour of class just taking bumps in the middle of the ring, like, having other people bump me. And it's not really, like, taking bumps is easy once you know how to do it, like, especially, like, if you're taking a move. But when you're just having to stand in the middle of the ring and throw yourself back, I felt like the first day I started taking bumps, I was so discouraged. I'm like, I'm not doing this right. I'm not kicking my feet up. And then my coach reminded me, he was like, you've never thrown yourself. It's not a natural thing to just stand and throw yourself back. You can't think of it that way. Don't be discouraged. You'll get it once it's like reps. Like, once you get it, you get it. And taking a nice clean bump feels so much better than taking a really bad, like, unexpected bump. I'll tell you that. It doesn't hurt at all. People think it does, but it doesn't. It feels so good when you take a clean bump. You just got to work on that and learn it.
Well, and overcoming that mental, like, I don't want to do this. Like, your body's like, we're not built for this. This is supposed to be a survival thing, not a choice. Yeah. So, like,
here I am willingly throwing myself against ropes and throwing myself into buckles, but yeah,
and like throwing yourself at the ground, which is like the opposite of what you're taught from when you're a child. So it's almost like relearning how to exist.
That's a good way to think of it, yeah.
Yeah. So what was the biggest challenge in training for you? What did you find to be the biggest obstacle, the hardest thing to overcome, the hardest thing to learn?
For me, the biggest thing, not necessarily like a move or like a thing to work on and practice. It's more of a mental thing that I had to really work on, like confidence. Like, am I going to be good enough to be a performer in front of people? Like, are people going to want to watch me wrestle? That's like the biggest thing I had to get over with myself, because it's really hard to, like, and anything that you do, especially if you're new at it, to just put yourself into that position and have all the confidence. Like, you can't go in and like, oh, I'm gonna do great, this is what I'm doing, especially if you've never done it before. It's very scary to think about, and I definitely had to work on, you know what, you'll get better, your roles will get cleaner, you're gonna be able to transition better. You just have to keep practicing, like, push yourself and don't give up, because I literally, like, there was so many times when I thought to myself, like, oh, I can't do this, like, what am I getting myself into? I can't do this, like, why did I sign up for this? But I just kept on going, and I had support from my friends and my family, and if I didn't have that support, I probably wouldn't be here today. I probably would have been like giving up on it. You know what? I'm not doing this no more. So I definitely had to come over that, and that was probably the hardest thing I had to do.
What was the response from your friends and family when you said, I want to become a professional wrestler, like I want to do this? What did they think, and has it changed since then?
The response was, seriously, Lexi? You're going to be a wrestler. Like, I get so, and to this day, like, strangers and stuff, when I tell them, they're like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a professional wrestler. They look at me, they're like, how? And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, you're so small, you're so short and sweet. Like, how are you a professional wrestler? I got this yesterday at work. And my family, my friends, when I told them, of course my family, my close family knew that's what I wanted to do. They kind of helped me get into my school. And so they were cool with it. But when I told like my not immediate family, they were just like, really? Wow, like the WWE kind? I'm like, yeah, sure. It's not amateur wrestling, it's the other one. They're like, isn't that like completely different than what you were doing before? Because I used to do like acting and performing and stuff. I'm like, not necessarily. Yes, it's a little bit more rough. But it is, if you think of it, it's a way of telling a story. Like I mentioned earlier, like when I think of professional wrestling, I think storytelling and entertainment. And if you think about it, that's the same thing I used to do. I'm just doing it in a different way, you know? And now when people, like my friends and stuff, they've seen that I'm serious about this, they're like, you're really trying to go somewhere with this. I'm like, yeah, this is what I love to do. Like, I found this, and I'm sticking with it because I finally feel like I'm in the right place. You know, I mean, I may not look like a real wrestler, or I may be too sweet, or my voice may be too high, but that doesn't matter when I'm in the ring. I'm a wrestler, and they just have to accept it now. And I have very supportive friends and very supportive family. Like, my family comes, you've seen them, they come to almost all of my shows. I always have my family in my audience, my mom and my sister, and now my nephew. And it's just great to have such a great support system. And then all my friends, most of my friends are wrestlers themselves. So like we're on this journey together of being pro wrestlers in the indie scene. So we always support each other, and it's the greatest thing to have support.
Well, and I came from an acting background too, so I totally was surprised, but not really, about how similar they are, how similar the process is, because so much of it is about emoting and performance and like projecting to the person in the back row. Like all of the stuff I learned in acting translated so well to wrestling. And I think that other than learning some of the physicality, like that was the only difference, really.
Like the stunt work and everything,
So what came easiest for you in wrestling? What was the thing that you were like, I got this, almost immediately?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. Hold on.
I mean, it could be promos, it could be selling, it could be anything like that.
Then I would probably go with selling, because I'm a baby. So if people like watch wrestling and they know like the formats of matches, I take a lot of heat, right? So I have to sell a lot, and definitely acting came so helpful with that. Also promos. I'm still working on my promo skills. Not saying I'm the best, but it's a little bit different. It's more like improv, which I can do because I used to do for my acting career, and scripts and everything like that. But I don't like to go off of promo scripts because I don't feel like it's natural. I like to be myself in my promos. So that's something that I'm pretty confident in is like my selling and my promos. I definitely think that when I started wrestling and I was like, oh, that's what you do? Oh, okay, I could do that. Yeah, that's fine. Sure, yeah, put me in.
Let's talk about the women's revolution. You came in to wrestling at almost a perfect time to be a women's wrestler. I mean, those people you idolized, they had to fight so hard to get 5 minutes of TV time. Now it seems like there's entire pay-per-views, entire promotions centered around women's wrestling, and it's becoming more and more of a spotlight. What has that experience been like for you coming in at such a hot time?
Very amazing and empowering, especially with me. Like I was telling you, people didn't expect me to be a pro wrestler because the number one thing, because I'm a girl. And people think wrestling, they think of men, right? So with me coming in at the time of the women's evolution, it really helped me because they're like, oh, another girl, finally. Like, we need more women. We need more women to show that women can be wrestlers too. We could do the same thing as men. And I believe in, and as a person and as a professional wrestler, that equality is like the one thing that the world needs to work on. We are all equal to each other, no matter what race, no matter what sex, what we believe in. I just feel like we're all on the same planet. We all need to, just I don't expect us to be like getting along like it's rainbows and butterflies, but if we just give each other the same respect as we give others, it'll make us go so far. And especially in the women's wrestling, like I've done shows where it's all women's wrestling, and I don't necessarily think that it needs to be that way, because that's not being equal to the dudes. But it is very nice to have that one show and have that feeling that we are appreciated and our work isn't just being like doled away. Like it literally shows that women are strong and that we can put on a whole show by ourselves, and that's really great because it's really hard being a women wrestler. And I've had like opportunities on shows where, oh, we don't like women wrestling because they don't feel like it's safe. And I've had to deal with like sexist like locker rooms and stuff like that, and only being in for like a year, you didn't expect that. But I can't imagine what the women like back in the day used to go through. And like I've read the stories about how like they wouldn't be able to go on because of this or that. And now that we have a little bit more freedom, it's great. And I'm very proud to be in this business right this moment right now. I'm very proud to be in it.
Well, and like you were saying, in the earlier days, that was the first segment to get cut. If they needed to cut a segment, it was the women's segment. Now it's almost like one of the most important segments on a show.
Main eventing WrestleMania.
Exactly. Yeah. Do you feel any extra pressure because of that? Because women are really taking the spotlight now. It seems to me, as an outsider, that would mean, well, now you've got to do it the best you can possibly do it, because if you don't, you're almost proving all those people from before right in saying, no, don't feature it. No, it's like a sideshow act. Do you feel any pressure because of that?
Yeah, definitely. Exactly what you said. Like, you have to make sure that, I get told in the back, like, lay those hits in, show these people that women can wrestle. Like, this is no joke. Like, it's pressure, but I think in a good way. For us to always have that mindset. When I go out and I have a match, I go out and I try to have the best match out there. That's my mindset. That's how I adapted to the wrestling world. And especially being a woman and being in the spotlight now, I don't want people to be like, oh, well, told you so, So I definitely, it does add pressure, but I think it helps me in the outcome. Like, I think I need that kind of pressure to put on a good performance. I think it's a good thing. Like, it's a good thing and a bad thing, but mostly good.
Now let's talk about the Rapture. One of my favorite groups on the scene right now.
Thank you.
There's culture. I mean, this is like a renewal of faction wrestling lately, and I'm so excited to see it because factions were always my favorite.
Yeah.
If you couldn't have tag teams, I wanted factions. So how did the Rapture come to be? How did you guys just gravitate towards one another?
Well, we all knew each other from training, and we went to the same school, and we always, when we met each other, we all kind of just, cling to each other. Me and Jay and Richard, we were always, hanging out, and Jay and Rich, they became a tag team together because they worked so well together. I love watching their matches. I'm not just saying this because they're my boys, but
no, I'll say it too.
Matches,
I definitely want.
They have so much chemistry with each other. They are literally, they're meant to be tagging with each other. So they started doing their own thing, and we always used to be at the same shows. All the time, we'd always be booked together. And one day we're just like, hey, why don't we make this grow? They're like, Lexi, you're always with us. Why don't we be a part of the faction? I'm like, you guys want to have me a part of it? I never had any other people come up to me and they're like, hey, we want you to be a part of our thing. So they're like, yeah, we'll be a part of the Rapture family, and we can make this. You can be your girl, but you can manage us, and then maybe we'll do intergender tag matches, and we can use you for that too. And I was like, of course, I would love to be a part of y'all. It was. I can't remember the first show that we did together was in West Palm Beach for Platinum Pro, and I managed them. And it was during Halloween time, and that was our first official show that I did with them. And from then on, I was like, this is really fun. I get not only do I get to hang out with you guys when we're going to shows, but now I'm a part of the faction of the Rapture, and I get to represent you guys. This is so much fun, and we're growing together. We all started around the same time, so we're all growing together and learning together. And then we added Jared in because we were like, you know what, let's add some more members. We're here, we can do this together. So when we don't do shows together, we're still representing the Rapture, and we're growing from it. And it's really cool because I'll be in the locker room and they're like, hey, you're Lexi Gomez. Where's your boys at? Where's the Rapture? And I'm like, hey, yeah, you know us, right? Yeah, we're getting places. And then it's really nice. Like I said earlier, it's really nice to have friends that are your support system. And when you're doing shows together as a faction, it feels like a family. Like you have so much support, and like we talk to each other. We'll be like, hey, why don't you do this instead of this, and why don't you do that instead of that? And it's really cool just to be like relaxed and chill with someone that it's like your family. So I love being a part of the Rapture, and I'm glad that we're getting to expand, and people are noticing like we're a faction. We are here and we're spreading ourselves around, and it's really nice and humbling, and I'm really proud of us all.
Well, and like a true faction, it's very, very rare I'll ever see just one of you or just two of you. It's usually the group. I mean, even if you're not on the show, it seems like the others are around.
Yeah, like today.
They're there. Yeah, like today. You guys, they're not even on the show tonight, and all of them are here, just here.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic. I mean, that's true. That's truly being a fan and a love of the sport, not just like, well, if I'm not booked, I don't need to be there.
show up,
Yeah, I'm only in it for the money, or I'm only in it for the exposure. So, what was the inspiration behind the name?
The Rapture.
Why did you guys choose that name of any other name?
That's a good question for Rich and Jay, because I think of it, and we've all talked about it. We've all talked about how we are we save the world, right? That's our catchphrase, because we are our own self-proclaimed superheroes, right? We're here to save the world, and as the Rapture, if you guys know about, it's not more about religion, and if you guys know about what the Rapture is, then it's like, okay, these people are here and these people are there, technically speaking, but we don't think of it as religion, because a lot of people they don't like religious stuff. So we think of it more as, we get into the ring, you're gonna face the Rapture, and you're gonna get saved by us. We're gonna save your world. We are our own self-claimed superheroes, and that's all that matters. I know that Jay and Rich, they thought of it like a long time before I came in, and they have a whole. I don't know if they have a whole different thought process than I do, but that's how I think of the name The Rapture, and that's what I think of. And like I said, we've talked about it. So if you want to know exactly like how they decided and they went with The Rapture, you're gonna have to hear from those guys themselves. But that's what I think, and I think that it fits.
And I definitely plan on having them on, but it's so cool to hear just your perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, that it can mean something different to each of you is also...
Because we're all individuals put together, we all have our difference, and we're all put together. So I think that if I'm the only one in this thinking that way, it's still how I think of it. And I know that they'll probably have a different perspective, but that's how we all work together.
What's the end goal? What would you like to see happen in, say, 5 years or 10 years, or where would you like to be?
I always give this answer, and people always ask me, like, why didn't you say something specific, or why doesn't it matter? To me, of course, it would be like a dream come true if I get signed to like a big company. That's every pro wrestler's dream, I would think, like to get signed by like WWE or New Japan or AEW or anything like that. But for me, truthfully, it's if I don't get signed anywhere in 5 to 10 years, I'm still going to be wrestling. I want to be able to wrestle until my body is not letting me. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm doing shows for 10,000 people or 20 people. As long as I'm being able to be healthy and to be in the ring and to be able to tell my story, it doesn't matter where I'm at, where I'm signed at. I just want to be able, for myself, to be able to say that I'm still wrestling for like the love of it, not for like the money, not for the fame. I just really love wrestling, and I really want to share that with everyone else.
It's a really exciting time, too, with AEW springing up, other companies starting to pick up steam. You said you came in as a fan during the Attitude Era, and not that it's going to be exactly like it, but to see that kind of competition like we saw then, it's really exciting, and you've got your foot in the door. I mean, like I said, you're making a huge name in Florida already within a year and a half. That's insanity to me. Like, I just can't even imagine what that must feel like. So I ask everybody these last two questions, kind of put them on the spot. One, if you had to give advice to somebody who wanted to get into wrestling in one way or another, whether it was, as a wrestler or a commentator or anything like that, they're not trained yet, they haven't started, but they want to do it, what advice would you give them?
I would just say go for it. I doubted myself whether or not I should get into the wrestling business, because it's something completely different and crazy and wonderful all at the same time. But trust me, if this is something that you want to do, do not hesitate on getting in and trying. Even if it doesn't work out, at least try, because I promise you, you'll get so much knowledge and a different point of view of wrestling that it'll change your world, and you won't regret it. Like, 100% do it. Like, go for it. Don't hold back. Don't wait. Just do whatever you want to do. If it's reffing, or if it's being a pro wrestler, commentary, anything hands-on in wrestling, just get into it. Don't wait. You're gonna love it.
If you could change one thing about wrestling, whether it's the training process, whether it's backstage, whether it's in the ring, whether it's fan perception, whatever it is, one thing about the business, what would it be?
I would want to change the thought process of, how do I say this? I would want people to be less selfish in a way. I wouldn't want people to push away people who are new and who are trying. Like, I would want everyone to encourage everyone and to stop being like diverse in like sections of how long you've been wrestling for or where you've wrestled. Like, if we're all in the locker room together, that person, if that person's super green, that person's got the opportunity that you were there just like them once. You were in their shoes, you were super green. And if the people that have the attitudes of, oh, well, I'm the vet now, I'm here and here, I would want everyone just to think of each other the same way. Like, help them out, don't make them feel uneasy or uncomfortable. Like, make sure that you know that they're there for a reason, and help them out as much as you can, because it's very important, especially, like I said, since you were there once. Someone's given you that opportunity too, and you're there for a reason. That person's there for a reason. So I would want everyone to respect each other the same way.
No, absolutely. It can be a very dog-eat-dog atmosphere in the back where everybody's looking out for themselves, but truthfully, the success of the self is based on the success of the show from the beginning match to the end match. Yeah. If you put on a bad show, even if you had the best match,
they're only going to remember the bad show.
Right, exactly. So now I want to give you an opportunity to plug anything you want to plug. Your social media, the Rapture, companies, schools, anything.
Yeah.
Go.
So anyone who's watching this, please follow me on all my social media. You can find me on Facebook at Lexi Gomez. My like page is Lexi Gomez The Unbreakable, because The Unbreakable Lexi Gomez wasn't working. So it's backwards, but it's still me. My YouTube channel is Lexi Gomez. My Instagram is Lexi with 2 I's _Gomez. You'll see my face on there. I've been posting a few like highlight videos. I'm still working on more, a little bit more creative. So you can check them out on my YouTube. And then follow The Rapture on Instagram at The Rapture Official. And also, we've been posting a lot more highlight videos ourselves. And like us on Facebook at The Rapture. We're trying to get out there a lot, and any help would be appreciated. Like and share, we would deeply appreciate it. I would deeply appreciate it if you've done the same for my page. And yeah, you can always see where I'm going to be at on my Facebook and my Instagram. I'm on Instagram a lot more. You can see where I'm going to be at and any open dates. And if anybody would like to book me for a show, my email is lexigomezofficial@gmail.com.
Perfect. If you're going to book one of them, you might as well book all of them, because there's a really strong chance the rest will be there anyway.
That's true.
So, Lexi, thank you so much for sitting down with me. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you on the next Interview Wednesday.
Bye.